It's fall in Yellowstone National Park, and the brutal extremes of winter loom on the horizon. The cold might frighten some people, but it doesn't scare me. I'm headed out for an adventure. My trek will take me far into the backcountry. For 7 days, I'll scramble and slide, fight and freeze. But as the temperatures drop and the battle for survival heats up, I'll be right in the middle of the action. The seasons are changing in Yellowstone country, and our first snowstorm has arrived. But on a day like today, you couldn't keep me inside. A little snow and a little cold shouldn't scare people away, but it does. So much happens as the days grow shorter. Great herds of bison and elk are on the move. Packs of wolves follow their weakening prey. Bears fatten up and prepare their dens for winter. Well, most bears. I'm Casey Anderson, director of Montana Grizzly Encounter, a bear rescue sanctuary near Yellowstone National Park. This is my best friend Brutus, a 900-pound grizzly bear that I've raised since birth. And Brutus loves the snow.
Whoa, what a good boy. So first snow last night, and all the animals in the area are going through a major transition. And Brutus isn't exempt from that. His appetite is already starting to slow down. He's actually starting to slow down, and he's getting this really thick hair coat preparing for winter. Now, while Brutus is in the comforts of the sanctuary here eating salmon, I'm gonna go out to Yellowstone and see what his wild cousins are doing. See you, buddy.
In just a few short months, everything in Yellowstone has changed. The crowds are gone, the roads are empty, and I can tell right away that this trip is going to be very different. But before I hit the trail, I have to stop at the visitor center to get a backcountry permit, permission from the park authorities to travel deep into Yellowstone.
You don't see anybody this time of year. It gives you a sense of what it was like when the early explorers were coming through.
All right.
Enjoy.
Off to the backcountry.
In 1872, the United States Congress created the first national park, Yellowstone. Spectacular geothermal features and abundant wildlife attract visitors from all over the world. 2 million acres shelter a remarkably intact ecosystem and offer examples of predator-prey relationships that survive in very few places. But over 90% of Yellowstone's visitors never make it off the road into the backcountry, where so much of the action happens. And I can't blame them at this time of year. It's going to be a cold, wet, lonely trip. Perfect. The conditions couldn't be better for heading off into one of the wildest places in America. Over the next several days, I'll travel more than 50 miles on foot. Everything I need to survive, I'll carry on my back.
Here we go. That is one heavy pack. I got my whole house and a lot of camera equipment. Well, here we go. The mighty Yellowstone River, the longest undammed river in the lower 48 states. It flows 700 miles from the Yellowstone backcountry all the way down to the Missouri River. Now, if it wasn't for this suspension bridge, that would have been one cold swim. Now, this time of year, most animals are going from the high country down to the low country because of the lack of snow. But the bears, this time of year, are moving into the high country to dig their dens and sleep the remaining of the winter up there. And that's the route I'm taking. I'm going from the low country into the high country. But I'm hoping to cross paths with the animals that are coming down towards my direction. All over Yellowstone, you see this, remnants of fallen kings. You know, anywhere else in the world, people would pick them up and put them above their fireplaces. But I think they should just be right here, right where they fell. And it really is part of Yellowstone's beauty. I haven't been hiking for long when the snow begins to tell its stories. During the winter months, the park's higher elevations can be buried by up to 30 feet of snow. Yellowstone's grazing herds move to areas where they can still find food. With the first snowfalls, massive herds of elk and bison have moved into the area. Now, if I can track the herds down, I know their predators aren't far behind. Brand new bison tracks, and big ones. More than likely bull bison. Let's go see. This isn't exactly like sneaking up on a grizzly bear, but bison are very dangerous and actually hurt far more park visitors than grizzlies. They can attack without warning and run at speeds up to 30 miles per hour. That means they can definitely outrun me. An adult bull bison can weigh 2,000 pounds. That's twice as much as the biggest grizzly bear anywhere around Yellowstone National Park. So to have one of those guys mow you over would hurt a lot. Great herds of American bison once roamed the plains, but we killed an estimated 40 million animals between 1800 and 1880. By 1900, fewer than 600 remained. The bison that populate Yellowstone today descended from those survivors. The coming winter will test even these large and powerful animals. Temperatures can drop far below zero, so bison take advantage of the park's natural geothermal features, warming themselves near geysers and springs. Thick coats and layers of fat insulate the animals, while their immense heads plow the deep snow as they search for food. But as the snow gets deeper, rivers become hidden death traps. If an animal falls through the ice, he can't be rescued. Harsh conditions take a tremendous toll on all of Yellowstone's grazing herds, and fierce predators like wolves and mountain lions take advantage of any weakness. It doesn't take long before I find signs that the park's predators are definitely around. A mountain lion track right here in the snow. It's also known as a cougar. And I can tell it's a mountain lion track because you can't see its claws. The mountain lion's claws actually are retracted into its paw when it's walking around. Now, if it was a canine, its claws are out, so you see their claws as they're walking through the snow. Now, this cat is likely in the area because deer, bighorn sheep, elk are moving down here, and that's what he likes to eat. I hope I see a cat. That would be awesome. Recently, I had a chance to visit a wildlife sanctuary where I met Windwalker, a large male mountain lion. It is absolutely incredible to be this close to Yellowstone's #1 apex ambush predator. Yeah, isn't that right? You know, a mountain lion anatomically is exactly like a house cat, just much bigger. Being this close to a mountain lion, I'm watching his body language. I can see he's content. He's actually purring just like a house cat. His ears are up. If he was angry, his ears would be pinned back and his eyes would be dilated. And I've seen that before, and the next thing I knew, it was jumping for my throat. A few years ago, a mountain lion I was working with suddenly attacked. 70 stitches later, I gained a whole new respect for the predator. I'm pretty fast, but not faster than a cougar. Just climbed up out of the river bottom up onto this plateau, and I am hot and sweaty, which is not a good thing in these conditions because you get wet, you get cold, you get cold, you get hypothermia, you make bad decisions, out here, and you die. So I decide to play it safe and call it a day. I set up camp, change out of my wet clothes, and make some supper. This is great. I'm coming down to get water at the same time the bison are. Late November, and most of the bears are tucked away in their dens for the winter. But there's still a few of them out here crawling around. And the reason why they're crawling around is because they're looking for food. So what I gotta do is make sure I keep a clean camp and store all my food properly. And the only way to do that out here in bear country is to hang it up in a tree out of their reach. And another thing I always keep in mind is I always carry bear spray year round. But in these freezing temperatures, it's important to keep it warm so it stays effective. After dinner, snow flurries start to blow in, but I pack knowing that I have to be ready for anything. Temperatures can fluctuate wildly at this time of year, and having the right gear can save your life. I prefer to use a good 4-season tent, something light enough that I can carry, but something strong enough to withstand the most brutal storms. In these cold conditions, I need a bag that's rated to negative 40 degrees. That's why I choose a good down sleeping bag. If it gets too warm, I can always unzip it.
Oh, it's early morning, sun just came up, and it got really cold last night. I bet it probably got down to around 5 degrees. And one way I can tell is that I've got tent snow. Check this out. It's the condensation freezing on the inside of the tent. And as it warms up, it's going to turn into tent rain. But I don't want to get out of the sleeping bag right now. It's so warm.
Miles from anywhere, I'm in the perfect place to experience the drama of the season. No sign of grizzly bears yet, but I've come across lots of mountain lion tracks. So today, I'm headed up to the rocky cliffs where the mountain lions hunt for bighorn sheep. At this time of year, the bighorn sheep are in their mating season. Distracted by the drive to reproduce, the sheep make an easy target for the cunning cats.
Whoa, check this out. This is a massive bighorn sheep ram. And the first thing I noticed, it's been killed by a mountain lion. And the way I can tell is this. If you see this vertebrae here, it's been broken. And the way it was broken is that the canines of the mountain lion are perfectly spaced. And when they jump on the back of the sheep, they bite down right here, and the canines slip on either side and break its neck. Every part of the mountain lion's body is designed to make them the perfect ambush predator. Their eyes are their keenest sense. This long, elegant body designed for sprinting. These long legs designed for leaping. And this long tail helps them with their balance.
This powerful anatomy makes the cougar a weapon, capable of taking down mule deer, bighorn sheep, and even elk that weigh 5 times as much as the cat. When mountain lions make a kill, they stalk into close range, make a bursting sprint, jump on the back of their prey, dig their claws in, and go for the neck with their jaws.
Wow. Pretty awesome. Look at that. On top of those cliffs, bighorn sheep, some of Yellowstone's most amazing athletes. They cling to these mountainsides to avoid mountain lions, wolves, and other predators. Now I'm gonna try to get up there to get a better look.
For more than 10,000 years, Native Americans have lived in the Yellowstone region. Not long ago, a group of Shoshone Indians called the Sheep Eater people made their home in these rocky hills. They earned their name by mastering the art of hunting bighorn sheep.
Check this out. This is the Sheep Eater ambush pit. Now let me explain what that is. The Sheep Eater people really understood the behavior of the sheep. And they knew when the sheep were down in the flatlands, if they scared them, that they would retreat into these rocky crags for safety. Well, this is what they did. They would build these pits, send hunters up here, and the hunters would get down in the pits and hide. The other hunters would walk down to the flatlands and scare the sheep. Well, the sheep thought they're gonna run up into these rocky crags and they're gonna be safe. Well, they were wrong. Because down in these pits, the hunters would emerge with their bows and arrows, and they'd shoot the sheep. Now, what a really cool thing to find, especially because I have bighorn sheep just behind me on these cliffs. This type of terrain is perfect for bighorn sheep to escape their predators. The bighorn sheep are very sure-footed while their predators are not, and neither am I.
I tested my rock climbing skills at Washington State University's Animal Resource Unit in a pen with bighorn sheep. The experts watched me flail.
Bighorn sheep have an amazing... Whoa! Well, they have a better sense of balance than I do. Even though bighorn have hooves, their hooves are designed to climb up on some of the steepest terrain. If you look at them here, they're actually splaying and separating to get extra traction. And that is actually to escape predators. When a mountain lion, a pack of wolves, or even a bear come around, they'll flee to some of the most rugged cliffs to escape.
But these big rams obviously aren't afraid of me, and it looks like someone else wants to be king of the mountain. Without the aid of specialized hooves, I make the final ascent. It's a tough scramble, and there's no room for slipping up deep in the backcountry. I'm far from help, and even a minor injury, like a twisted ankle, could leave me stranded and in very serious trouble.
So I made it up top, and just up here over this edge is where I last saw the sheep. So I'm gonna sneak up, kind of get a look over, see if they're still there. This ram heard me walking, thought I was another bighorn ram, and came over to show me who's boss. But then when he figured out it was just me, he bedded down and started scanning the area looking for other rams to butt heads with.
At this time of year, bighorn sheep are fully occupied with the rituals of the mating season, which is called the rut. Rams battle for the right to breed, butting heads crowned with massive curling horns.
You can see where the bighorn gets its name. Look at the size of these horns. When these big rams battle, they bash heads, and they could exert up to 75 pounds per square inch.
Running at one another with speeds up to 20 miles per hour and colliding with a crack that can be heard from great distances, males established a hierarchy of dominance. A single conflict can last up to 20 hours. The winner earns the right to mate with the most females. Because of fierce competition, many males don't breed until they're 7 years old. Subordinate males huddle together and get pushed around by the dominant ram. To sense when a female is ready to mate, males curl their lips and take in the scent of the female over a special sensory organ. Even when he knows she is ready, a ram will wait for the female to chase after him before they mate. Sometimes he'll push her around to jumpstart the pursuit. In 5 or 6 months, when spring arrives in Yellowstone, the ewes will give birth to lambs.
When the lambs are just a few days old, they can climb alongside their mothers and move easily in this terrain.
As we found out today, my climbing skills don't compare. I'd better head down before dark. The last place I want to spend a cold night is stranded on a rocky ledge. Just before I reach camp, I discover more mountain lion tracks.
I don't know, it's kind of cool to have a mountain lion around, but I sure like to know where he's at. Is he hunting bighorn sheep like he's supposed to be? Or is he watching the crazy Nat Geo wild guy walk around in the woods? I don't know. Keep my eyes open.
It's day 3 of my Yellowstone backcountry trek, and I've already covered more than 20 miles, tracking animals on the move and watching out for predators.
I feel like the luckiest guy in the world. I'm seeing places that nobody ever sees. And very few people come into the Yellowstone backcountry, and most of them stick to the trails.
This morning I'm back on the trail of the mountain lion. Although I've seen sign of him every day, it's really no wonder the big cat has eluded me. Let me show you what I mean. Even Windwalker at the Wildlife Sanctuary is an expert in the game of hide and seek.
Windwalker's moving right back there into the woods, and I can't see him at all. His hair coat is the perfect color, the ultimate camouflage. A mountain lion uses stealth, moves through these woods, sneaks up on deer, and then makes the pounce and makes the kill. Now I know why I never see him out there in the wild.
My chance of spotting the mountain lion by tracking him seems slim, but I have another idea. I follow the cat's tracks and cross the park's northern boundary. I can tell that the mountain lion uses this route regularly, so I set up a remote camera trap. If the cat walks by again, he will trigger the camera's motion sensor, and I'll get a picture.
This is great. I came down to the river to get water, and in these thick trees is a great horned owl. Now it's approaching evening, and that's when this guy starts to do his work. He is the ultimate nighttime predator. The rodents come out under the cover of darkness because they think all the predators are gone. But this owl, with his night vision, he'll see them, and he'll swoop out of the tree and wham, and nail them and have them for dinner. It was a cold, quiet night last night. I am super anxious to see if I got anything on here. See what we got. Oh, look at that. Now that's the animal whose tracks I've been seeing the whole time. That looks like a big male mountain lion. Now, this is the first time that I've seen him, but I'll guarantee you, he's been watching me this whole trip. That is quite extraordinary.
I've caught my cat, but now I want to see what Brutus's wild cousins are up to. So I'm headed to an area that would be just right for a grizzly den.
About 70% of grizzly bears in the Yellowstone area excavate their dens on north-facing slopes, but the remaining bears utilize other den sites, like this cave up here in this rocky outcropping. Let's go check it out.
No matter what time of year it is, I'm always cautious when I approach a den site. You never know what could be inside.
Now I can see where a bear has pulled some of this grass back into its den for bedding. There's a deep chasm that runs back into the rocks, and there could be a bear in there hibernating.
To get a closer look at what actually happens to a bear during the time it spends in its den, I visit Washington State University, where researchers study hibernation. This is crazy. I'm headed into a den to wake up a grizzly bear that hasn't eaten in 2 months. And I don't even have my pepper spray.
Sorry, I ruined that one.
Shut this door.
Oh my God.
So Mike is investigating the ultrasound, my leg. Dr. Nelson is letting her lick her hand. It's a way to make the bear feel comfortable, which I'm not feeling comfortable right now that much because I do have a grizzly bear licking my knee. But she's just smelling me, checking me out. And we're going to take some images of her heart to see the difference in the transition from her active period to this period here during hibernation.
It's much like looking for a baby inside of a pregnant woman, but in this case, we're going to use it to look at the heart and look at the bear's heart function during hibernation and how that changes.
During a grizzly bear's active months, their heart rate is very much like humans. It's 70 to 90 beats per minute. But right now, during hibernation, we're seeing that her heart rate is down to 15 beats per minute. Now, a grizzly bear can keep this low heart rate for several months. And if a human was to have this same low heart rate, they wouldn't even last 2 weeks. One thing that's really cool about what's going on with that heart right now, only half the heart is actually working during hibernation. So I've done a lot of things with grizzly bears, but this moment right here is unforgettable. See you later.
The researchers here carefully observe the adaptations that allow bears to survive the long winter, a time when food is scarce. Bears slow their heart rate, breathing, and metabolism, and conserve massive amounts of energy.
As the old saying goes, let sleeping bears lie. I'm gonna head up the mountain and see what else I can find.
As I cover ground, I fall into a backcountry rhythm.
I just spotted 3 big bull elk right up here on the ridge.
Every day means long miles, tired feet, and freeze-dried meals. Every night, I look forward to my warm sleeping bag and a few hours of rest.
It's early morning. The sun's just coming over the mountain. And it's cold, so I'm really looking forward to it coming over the mountain. In these frigid temperatures, it's not only important to stay warm, but to stay hydrated. And what a beautiful place to get water. It was so cold last night that even the waterfall froze. This is great. Fresh grizzly tracks in the snow. The nights and days have been below freezing. I thought all the bears were in their dens for the winter. But just knowing that the grizzlies are still out makes this trip extra exciting. This is a perfect rear paw of a grizzly bear. Now, if you look at their rear paw, it's very different from their front paw. It's actually very similar to the sole of our feet, very long. And that's when they stand up, it actually supports their weight. And you can see here where it drug its claws through the snow when it was moving down the trail. It's pretty great to know that they're around.
I follow the bear's tracks up and into the high country.
I climbed up here on the ridge to get a better look around, and I ran into this stand of whitebark pine. Now, you wouldn't know it by looking at it, but this is a critical food source for bears that are going into hibernation here in the Yellowstone ecosystem. Now, the whitebark pine grows only way up here in these high elevations, and it has distinctively soft needles, but it's not the needles that they eat. The source of food is actually inside these cones. And you know I like to eat what bears eat. I've eaten moths, I've eaten freshly killed salmon, Now I'm gonna eat a pine nut. It's delicious. And a good source of protein, but bears have to eat hundreds of thousands of them to fatten up for the winter.
It's hard to imagine how bears can gather so many tiny seeds. The truth is, they have lots of help. In the late summer and early fall, when the whitebark pine seeds ripen, the Clark's nutcracker gets to work. The bird can stash more than 80 pine nuts in a pouch beneath its chin. Over the season, it collects and buries tens of thousands of seeds in caches. When it comes time to access its food stores, a Clark's nutcracker can remember thousands of locations where its nuts are stashed. And forgotten caches become nurseries for new whitebark pines. While bears will dig up the nutcracker caches, squirrels put together the real payload. During the late summer and fall, squirrels gather massive collections of pine cones and store them in ground barrels called middens that can contain tens of thousands of nuts. Bears search for these middens, and what they find, they raid, reaping the benefits of the huge calorie load amassed by the squirrels.
There's a squirrel cache right here. Now the poor squirrel gathers up all the pine nuts and stores them down in here for the winter. Then the grizzly bear comes along and uses that nose, sniffs out this cache, and then really digs in. I mean, this is truly a grizzly bear jackpot.
Looks like I'm not the only one digging up pine nuts. Finally, a bear. A very fat bear. A grizzly can gain up to 400 pounds during hyperphagia, the period of intense feeding before hibernation. Yellowstone grizzlies depend on the rich fatty pine nuts as they put on their winter weight. Bears continue to search for pine nuts in the spring when they come out of hibernation. A bear can detect a pine nut cache beneath 6 feet of snow. I can't even smell a pine nut when it's 6 inches away from my nose. But even a very sensitive nose can't search out pine nuts if there aren't any to be found. And in the Yellowstone ecosystem, this critical food source is disappearing. The whitebark pine forests are under attack.
This is really depressing. The bears are losing this food source at a rapid rate. And this pine has actually been killed by the pine beetle. And if you look here, you can see all these little borer marks in the side of the tree. And that's where these beetles are going in and eating this tree. And they've already killed this pine. And soon, the pines around here all start to die.
Pine beetles are native to the Yellowstone ecosystem, but historically, pine beetle outbreaks occurred at lower elevations. Scientists think that freezing winter temperatures killed the insects in the high-altitude whitebark pine forests. Now, it might be hard to believe that this isn't cold weather, but it takes many consecutive days of sub-zero temperatures to kill a pine beetle. Recent warming trends have brought milder winters, and the beetles have flourished, wiping out forests across the region and threatening to take away one of the grizzly's most important foods. If bears can't find pine nuts, they look for alternate food sources, especially in the fall during hyperphagia, when they must fatten up for the winter. Their search brings them down from the isolation of the whitebark pine forests to the lower elevations, where they're more likely to come in contact with humans. And grizzlies and humans don't mix. If a bear gets in the habit of looking for food in the wrong places, wildlife managers are often forced to kill the bear. Brutus and I try to do our part to prevent fatal encounters. We educate people through public service announcements about the basics of being safe in bear country. Here, Brutus visits a camp that hasn't been bear-proofed. It doesn't take long for an expert nose to find some tasty trouble. A bear can destroy a camp in a matter of minutes, and even toothpaste can attract an unwanted roommate.
Hi, I'm Casey Anderson from Montana Grizzly Encounter, and this is Brutus the bear, who you just watched tear apart a camp. And though it may seem funny, Keeping a clean camp can mean the difference between life and death for you and the grizzly bear.
I've spent nearly a week exploring the backcountry in Yellowstone National Park. All of the animals around me are preparing for the cold winter, and I'm working to stay warm myself.
In the summer months, the animals fatten up for the winter, and in this season, every meal counts, because if they come into the winter unprepared, they certainly won't make it through it. And for this trek, I prepared myself. I had plenty of cheeseburgers and pizza, but just trying to stay warm and doing a lot of hiking out here in the backcountry, my pants are already starting to fall down, so I had to tighten up my belt quite a bit. I like to call it my Yellowstone backcountry diet. Looking pretty good.
When grizzlies can't find their dietary staples, they diversify. Outside the park, it's hunting season, and a freshly killed elk carcass can certainly attract a bear. A hungry grizzly will fight for a meal. Every year, hunters and bears clash. Today I've hiked to a hunting camp not far from the park's boundary. I want to know if the hunters have seen any bears this year. And boy, do they have a story for me.
Just up here on the mountain above us, 3 guys were up there hunting and they killed a cow elk. And they got her cleaned out, ready to haul. And the one guy hollered bear. They turned around and about 20 yards away, there was a grizzly coming at him. The one guy said he dropped his rifle and his backpack was already laying there. And they took off down the hill and just left the elk there for the grizzly.
I return to the scene of the crime, hoping I can get a glimpse of the bear.
Now, it's a little bit concerning because a bear's out right now for one reason, and that's because he's hungry. And even though it's rare, bears who are desperate are the bears who choose to try to eat people once in a while. And bears that are out right now are desperate, so I've got to keep my eyes open. Right up here in the tree line, I've got a big, dark male grizzly, the bear that stole the elk from the hunters. And he's not going to give it up. A grizzly bear on a carcass is the most dangerous situation you can come across this time of year. Now, when a grizzly comes to a carcass where there's enough meat for him to eat for a few days, he'll cover it up with dirt, leaves, and grass to keep other animals from finding it. A whole elk carcass is a perfect meal for a bear before winter.
This wild grizzly isn't the only bear enjoying the spoils of hunting season. Every year, hunters donate elk carcasses to Montana Grizzly Encounter, where Brutus lives with 3 other rescued bears. As you can imagine, 4 grizzlies can eat a lot of food. So donations like this rib cage make up an important part of their diet.
The bears are going to love it.
Meet Maggie and Jake, 2 bears that have been together since they were cubs. At just 4 years old, they are still subadults. In captivity, grizzlies can live more than 30 years. When Jake and Maggie first arrived here at the rescue center, they had never set foot outside of a cage. It took them over 3 months just to build up the courage to leave the den and explore their new home. But these 2 have come a long way in the past couple years. See Jake swinging his head from side to side? That's a bear's way of saying, I'm happy, let's play. Nowadays, Jake and Maggie love spending time outside their dens and will wrestle for hours on end. Although Jake has grown to be much larger than Maggie, she still puts up a pretty good fight.
Jake and Maggie are really digging the elk carcass. And it's really neat to think about because right now, just outside of these walls, the wild bears are enjoying the same food source.
The bears here at the sanctuary won't go into hibernation this winter, even when their wild cousins finally retreat to their dens. Unlike many seasonal animals, bears are somewhat flexible and hibernate when it best suits their needs. Jake, Maggie, and Brutus can stay up all winter because we feed them year-round. And even in Yellowstone, bears can continue to forage until the most extreme conditions arrive. Right now in the park, It looks like a storm is on its way.
I woke up this morning, it was 40 degrees, and now this. It's dropped 10 degrees and this blizzard's blowing in. And I've got to admit, I really kind of like the unpredictability of the Yellowstone weather. One thing that's very important to take into consideration when a blizzard's blowing in is to find your bearings. Because when it comes in, it could be absolute whiteout and you won't know which direction is what.
I've hiked in Yellowstone for more than a week, watching the wildlife prepare for the cold winter. Now, their preparations will have to pay off. The extreme weather has arrived.
Storm came on just out of the blue. It was literally sunny skies, and now this. So yeah, just trying to take my time. Last thing I want to do is break a leg or something going down this hill. I'd be caught out here, laying out here in this blizzard. That'd be certain death.
When it blows like this, wind chill becomes another factor in my struggle to stay warm. Moving air carries heat away from my body, making me feel even colder and increasing my risk of frostbite.
Most grizzly bears will excavate their dens and wait for storms like this before they hunker down for the winter. There's a couple reasons why. The new snow will cover up their tracks leading to the den, and that new layer of snow will be much needed insulation for the cold weather coming.
The last bears are finally off to their dens, and I had better head home too. If the snow keeps falling here in Yellowstone, it could be much harder for me to get out of the backcountry. I have to make a hard choice tomorrow. I could hike 8 long miles and risk getting trapped in a blizzard. Or I can attempt a treacherous creek crossing and make my hike out 6 miles shorter. I have a long, cold night to make up my mind. As the night passes, the storm breaks and the sky begins to clear. It looks like this morning might be my best chance to get out of here. I decide that crossing the creek will save me time that I can't afford to waste.
It was cold enough last night, the ice conditions seemed pretty good. Now, if I was to fall through into this frigid water, I would certainly get hypothermia. So utilizing the right crossing technique is critical. Getting hypothermia is a big cause of death in the backcountry areas. Now together, me and my backpack weigh over 250 pounds. And to have all that weight in just the surface area of my 2 feet would be ultra dangerous. So now I'm gonna scoop my body, displacing all my weight across the ice, and then drag my backpack with this rope across to me. As I go, I'm gonna hear a little bit of cracking, but I gotta keep believing that the ice underneath is strong. Oh, this is not the smartest thing I've ever done. The things that you'll do to save hiking 6 miles with a heavy backpack on. Success. Well, leaving the frozen trails of Yellowstone for the paved trails of civilization. And I always learn something different when I'm out here, whether it's about the wild animals or about myself. But what's great about it is when you're out here in the Yellowstone backcountry, you just never know what's around the next corner.
On this trip, I pushed my limits. Now I'm headed towards the warm comforts of home. But for the animals here in Yellowstone, the struggle is just beginning. I've gained a new appreciation for the resilience of the creatures that adapt and endure as the seasons change. As I leave the park, I feel a renewed sense of gratitude and reverence for this place, where wildness is still protected.
They call me the animal magnet. But of all the animals I've worked with, only one has hot tub privileges. This is Brutus, the brown bear that I raised from Twinkie size to one tall drink of water. I work with Brutus to get a close-up view of the behaviors I see in the wild. But the world has a view of grizzlies that can be a little bit out of touch.
Up next, these wild grizzlies are human hunters.
So Brutus and I are putting together a crash course to separate fact from fiction when it comes to bear attacks. We'll get the truth from the real survivors.
And I see her just right out there.
And return to the scenes of their nightmares.
Bang, she was on me from point blank range.
Right out of the woods like that.
And closer to home, I'll break down the hazards of living in bear country, one piece at a time. It's the grizzly bear, unfiltered.
All of a sudden, I'm laying there in stilled silence.
Because after you've been inside the attack, the view is crystal clear. For me, the bottom line with all bears, whether captive or in the wild, is respect. A performance like this, teaching Brutus to swim like an Alaskan brown bear, can't be forced. It's based on a relationship of trust, one that Brutus and I have developed over a lifetime. Besides, grizzly bears have a habit of matching force with force. So my rule of thumb while observing bears in the wild is to try to affect their behavior as little as possible. And in the best case scenario, I'm invisible.
This is just the way I like to view grizzly bears. I got a big cliff between us. It's completely safe. The wind is in my advantage. They can't smell me. I can completely watch them do their natural behavior.
But since I spent a lot more time than the average Joe in dense grizzly country, I've had my fair share of close calls. Like the time I literally was surrounded by grizzlies in Alaska. Yeah, right, like 15 yards away is a big male grizzly right there. He's acting fine, but we just need to back up out of here. The bears that are in this area are definitely the most dangerous bears, so really gotta pay attention. We have so many different bears in an area, so you don't know what you're dealing with. Watched this bear before. He's kind of a bully bear, and he's coming towards us, so I'm gonna go this way. I managed to safely cross this grizzly highway, even at rush hour. But it's experiences like these that prompt reporters to call every time a human-bear conflict hits the news.
A Montana wildlife official says one person was killed and 2 others injured in a bear attack.
Residents here and people vacationing are very concerned.
Grizzly bear expert Casey Anderson says it never hurts to take extra precautions.
The last stat I heard prior to this year was that only 6 grizzly caused fatalities in the Yellowstone ecosystem. So it's very rare.
And bear attacks are rare. Grizzlies or black bears have killed 108 people in North America in the last 110 years.
In my mind, there are only a handful of people who can accurately describe a grizzly attack. And one of these people is my friend, Jim Cole.
Most attacks are defensive. They are not out there preying on us like a lot of people would think.
As a wildlife photographer focusing primarily on grizzlies, he's had several brushes with bears at close range. The most recent of which was 3 years ago in Yellowstone National Park. And today, Jim and I are headed back to the exact spot of his encounter to finally make sense of the grizzly that attacked him. We set out early underneath a dense curtain of fog. 3 years ago, at this very spot,
Jim had prepped his camera gear at the car. He then headed out into the backcountry alone toward a place he had been many times before, the Hayden Valley. A 7-mile trek through some of the wildest and most scenic country in the park.
Well, this is a really cool, typical route that I take to go into Hayden Valley. We're gonna go.
And this place is a little bit special to you now.
Well, it's special to me. It always has been special to me, but obviously it takes on a little different significance since my accident, but I always enjoy going back.
So Jim, I know you like to come out here and watch grizzly bears, but you do more than that. You document it with your camera. How long have you been doing that?
Oh, I've been doing that for 30 years.
And you've taken a lot of pictures, though.
I have more bear pictures than you can believe. I have a mother and 4 cubs that I was able to really do a lot of photographing in Alaska a few years ago. I have a picture of a bear raising an American flag, kind of pulling on a flag. Those probably are my 2 favorite pictures.
And I see you're all geared up here, so tell me about what you've got.
I am strapped into the hilt. This is what I always carry. Ever since my first time I was mauled, I carried 2 cans of spray instead of 1. And you got, I mean, this is not real typical. What do you got there? I don't even know what that is.
Well, I've got a little surprise for you, and I'm gonna break it out when we get up on top of the hill here.
Okay.
99% of Yellowstone's visitors never leave the park roads. But once you set foot out here, in the backcountry, the park takes on a whole new character. Wilder, bigger, and full of mystery. Our first stop is one of Yellowstone's signature geothermal features.
You know, I come through this area most of the time when I come into Hayden Valley. Now, I have some other routes too, but this sandy area and this thermal area gives me a good barometer of the bear activity in the area. Bears really can't walk through here at all without making tracks.
And did you come through here the day of your accident?
I did. I came through here that day, and there were some bear tracks. I don't remember exactly, but I do remember there were some bear tracks.
So you knew there was a good chance that you were gonna see a bear that day?
Good chance of seeing a bear, you never know. Because this is a huge valley, wide open, bears move a lot. Sometimes I come in here and I think my chances are great and see nothing, and sometimes when you least expect it, there they are.
The element of surprise is always the X factor in grizzly country, because more than half of grizzly attacks are provoked by surprise encounters. And awareness begins by paying attention to the signs right in front of you.
Oh, here's some nice grizzly tracks. Really distinctive, classic grizzly tracks.
Yeah, and a
Right.
decent-sized grizzly, too.
Yeah. Back in 1993, I had my first encounter with a bear. These are adult tracks. That bear was a little smaller. Might have had a guard down a little bit, really don't know. And all of a sudden, I heard to my left, the bear was swinging like a fighter. Because I was going down, the bear kept missing.
Luckily, Jim was able to walk away from his first attack with only a broken wrist and a torn scalp. Fresh grizzly tracks still make my adrenaline surge. But in Jim's case, in this wide open terrain, that day seemed like just another walk in the park.
You know, I was walking along here, wasn't thinking about much. I'm coming over this little subtle knoll. I remember I was trying to pick a route out. I looked to my left, and all I heard, she didn't make any vocalizations. In my first mauling, I had a warning. There was a huff. This time there was nothing. But I heard her galloping after I looked to my right. And right over there, bang, she was on me from point-blank range. I reached for my bear spray, and my hand was pinned like inches. There was nothing I could do. She was on me so quick. She pinned me with her right paw to the ground while she raked my face off with her left. And then boom, in an instant, she's gone. And I saw her and her cub running away, and she was freaked out. I had no more worries about her. The vicious situation that had just occurred, all of a sudden I'm laying there in stilled silence after all this mayhem that happened in a matter of seconds. And then it was a matter of life and death. I had to get up immediately. I couldn't sit or lay down for 1 minute, or I'd be dead. I realized right away that my life might be over.
The attack leaves Jim's face practically unrecognizable, with shattered facial bones, a destroyed left eye, and a nearly blind right eye. He's rapidly losing blood and nearing shock.
I realized that with the extent of my injuries and being blind, there was a good chance that I might not make it out, but I was going to fight with everything I had to get my way out. I was thinking this could be it. I was thinking, oh, you know, expletive.
In North America's national parks, females with cubs account for nearly 3/4 of all grizzly bear-inflicted injuries. And now Jim Cole was part of the statistic.
So the bottom line is, this female bear was doing one thing, and that was protecting its cub.
Probably, yeah, oh yeah, she was protecting her cub.
But Jim's ordeal wasn't finished, and I knew the perfect place to hear the rest of the story.
I think we should climb up on top of this knoll, see if there's any grizzly bears around, because we'll have a good view. But I got a little surprise for you, too.
All right, I'm up for anything. You know, I'm alive, so what the heck?
All right.
Although bears and people don't always mix well, Jim proves that conflict can be a learning experience. And I've brought him a gift that will help him share his lesson far and wide.
Well, this looks like the perfect spot. But this is actually your surprise right here.
Well, that's definitely been the mystery of the trip so far.
And I've got a little gift for you. This is all yours.
Thank you so much. My God, I'm overwhelmed to be given this period, but in a place like this and in a venue like this, pretty damn special. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I've heard that you have a song particular to this exact spot.
I do, Casey. And I wrote this in my early part of my recovery when I was in Boulder, Colorado. And it's all the things we've been talking about today. It's called Blindsided. She burst across the hillside like a furry locomotive. Without the slightest warning, she barely made a sound. On me in an instant, there was nothing I could do. Time stood still. I was flattened on the ground.
Then, Jim's song continues with a harrowing description of his nearly blind journey to safety.
Blinded by the onslaught, but pounding through the sagebrush. I could hardly see my wobbly feet, but I was guided by the sun. When I crossed that winding creek that flows under the road, oh, I knew that I would make it, but it's the hardest thing I've ever done. Blindsided, grizzly defense. Blindsided, bear common sense. Blindsided, out here alone. Blindsided, I found my way home. Blindsided in the place where it happened. But, you know, I've done a few performances in my time, but this one's gonna always stand out. Appreciate it, and we'll have a good hike out.
All right.
As we retrace Jim's steps on our own long way home, I think of the courage it takes to turn what could have been a final act into a beautiful encore.
What would you want people to take away from your experience?
Just to understand that I accept what happened. I'm not happy about it. But the bears, they are not out there preying on us like a lot of people would think. They don't kill the person. If that bear wanted me dead, I had no chance. I was at her mercy. I wasn't fighting back. The bears are really peace-loving animals, and they're not out there stalking us.
His survival, nothing short of miraculous. And his recovery, even more inspiring. Pound for pound, he's one of the toughest defenders of the grizzly bear I've ever met. Being on the front lines of bear country has its benefits. I spent a lot of time in beautiful places, getting to know some of the most awe-inspiring and intimidating animals on Earth.
Look at the size of that bear.
But there are lots of people fascinated by bears who've never set foot in the wilderness or seen one in the wild. Instead, they get their bear fix from TV and the internet, with videos watched millions of times online by people all over the world, including the infamous Kung Fu Bear, a viral video from Japan with over 2 million hits.
I've actually seen an American black bear I used to work with do this exact same behavior. That's crazy. Now, he just threw it up in the air and caught it. I've never seen a bear do that before.
And of course, the dancing bear.
This is of a bear up in northern Montana, part of a research project. They set up some camera traps and caught these bears in a private moment. Now this bear is just literally rubbing its back on a tree, marking its territory, scratching its back. It's a behavior I've seen 1,000 times. But somebody's added a little bit of music to this, and it's really becoming a giant YouTube sensation.
It's hard to know what someone who has never seen a real bear before would think after seeing these. And although Brutus may not be a great dancer, he's got his own unique skill set. One that shows the real alternative to cute and cuddly. We'll find out if it's enough to make him the next web star.
Today, we're gonna create the ultimate bear viral video. Now, here's the plan. Rick's gonna shoot this whole thing on the handy cam, so it's gonna look authentic, even though this is really just a giant movie set. Rick and Billy are gonna pull up, there's gonna be a bear in their garbage, and then things are gonna go wrong. So guys, take your places, and let's get this thing set up.
Every year, car break-ins are one of the biggest and most expensive bear management problems. And today, the problem just got a little bigger.
Now, I don't want this to go really bad, so obviously I gotta protect my team here. So I'm gonna put a little hot wire over the top of this car so Brutus can't actually get in the car with him. If everything goes right, there's not gonna be much left of this car.
I'm the only one on the inside of the hot wire with Brutus. The rest of the crew is safely on the other side.
Well, it's a hot July day, and this car is already getting hot to touch. I'm gonna spray it down, cool it down, so Brutus really wants to get after it.
And this is an age-old training trick. I jump, Brutus jumps. Only he doesn't actually leave the ground. Steel and safety glass are simply no match for the strength of a grizzly.
Hot July day, Brutus is already halfway through tearing this car apart, so he needs a little cool down time. All right, buddy.
Stoking Brutus's natural hunger for demolition is as easy as a can of whipped cream.
I hear something in the trunk. Oh, it's a Brutus! The look he gave me was hilarious.
Now that we've got Brutus inside, I'd consider this car a total loss.
Boy, you really did a good job, Brutus. Why don't you give me a high five? Good job.
Now, with a bit of clever editing, we can recreate the scene as if it happened in real time, with real people and a wild bear. Just imagine, somewhere in Montana, two friends turn into their driveway. They've forgotten to take in the trash, and this is what they see.
Get the camera, get the camera.
That's crazy.
You gotta stay quiet.
This bear's like,
He's huge.
you gotta be quiet. I think he's coming this way.
Dude,
He's coming this way.
we gotta get the back.
He wants the pizza. He's coming right up.
Hurry up.
Go away! Go! Get out! Get out! Go! Get out of my car! Get out of there! Oh, man. Oh, my God! Oh, my God! My mom is gonna kill me! Go away, bear! Get out of there! Oh, my God. Totally crazy. Oh, my God.
Oh my God. Oh my god, dude, he's totally on top. He's on top of the car.
Not. Whoa, my
trying
God.
to do it. Shut up.
Get back, get back, get back.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. That is. Oh my God. Oh my God. Go away, Bear. Get out of here, Bear. Still there? Shh, shh.
The batteries are about to go down.
Oh my God. Look at this. This is the most ridiculous. Oh my God. What? What? I mean, this is crazy.
Bears may have an appetite for destruction, but only if you feed them first. Now it's time to get this video out where it can be seen. One of these days, I predict Brutus will get his own star on the Internet Walk of Fame. Just west of Yellowstone, this cabin has been my home away from home every spring for the last 5 years. And like several places right outside the park boundary, this is a known hotspot for bear-human conflicts. And one of the most famous incidents in this area occurred on September 25th, 1992, a few miles up the Eldridge Trail. I'm back there today with Mark Matheny, the only guide who can retell this story in his own words.
Last time you were here, 18 years ago, was dark, where you were going to go hunting with your buddy, right?
Right. It was early in the morning. We wanted to start at the trail before it got light. I was with my good friend, Dr. Fred Monson. We were coming in bow hunting for elk.
And walking up in the dark in grizzly country is always, you're on your toes. Were you thinking about grizzlies at all?
I was, I told Fred, I said, Fred, we should stick together up here this morning because there's quite a few grizzlies in this country.
Now, we're old friends. We've talked about your mauling several times, but we've never come back to the actual site. So I'm actually looking forward to this a lot today, so lead the way, and we'll go check it out.
Let's go.
I could almost see Mark and Fred heading up the trail that morning, scanning for elk with bows in hand. Hunters don't make much noise as they travel. They also try to stay downwind of their prey. And in bear country, that can quickly translate into a surprise encounter.
We've got a brown-colored black bear just up the trail here. We're in bear country for sure. Now the wind's a little bit in our face, so I don't think it knows we're here.
Black bears are rarely aggressive, and the likelihood of a major injury from a black bear is much less than from a grizzly bear.
That's awesome. Going into that bear attack scene and running into a bear.
Now, if you would have done that when you first returned to the site of the attack, 11 days after, how would have this made you feel?
I would have for sure thought it was a grizzly.
Yeah, it would have freaked you out.
No question. Yeah, my imagination would have said, that's a grizzly. I would have felt very threatened, very threatened. I was so scared even without seeing one. I thought a bear was gonna come charging behind every tree.
It's funny, you said 50% of the black bears in this area are not black. Well, the wind changed. I think she smelled us and took off. Should we head on up?
Yeah, let's continue. Okay.
As we hike in further, the terrain begins to change. Grassy meadows fade into thick forest, and there's no way of seeing what's around the next bend.
Wow, this is looking really familiar. This is the spot. I'm pretty sure this is the exact spot, Casey, where we got attacked by that female grizzly with cubs.
This is where it all went down, huh?
Yeah.
Well, you can see how easy it would be to stumble on a grizzly bear. And this is super dense forest. This would be easy just to walk right up on one.
She was only like 40 yards away, lying over in the dense timber, and boy, I just caught movement. I was in the lead coming down. I was still hunting. We're just coming down the trail like we've done thousands of times. And I caught movement off to my left in the dense timber, and it was something just flying through the air horizontally. And here she comes. I seen the red ore of anger around this bear. She was pissed that I was there. And here she comes, just running, right out of the woods like that. And you're thinking, oh, this is not happening. I glanced for a tree to jump up into, and I'm thinking, I gotta get back to Fred so he can spray this bear. And I said, it's a bear, get your spray.
Bear, get your spray!
Fred, he jumped behind this pine tree right here, and I jumped right behind this log right here and just threw my bow out, and the bear was like 8 feet right there. One of her paws knocked the bow out of my hand. The next paw came over the log, so all I had was teeth coming right at my throat. Because next thing I know, my head's in her mouth, and she's mauling me, and I'm going, oh, God, help me. And I one last scream for my life. She's got my head, she's killing me. And so I hyped up that situation there.
When you screamed, that's when she really bit down.
Oh, she bit down on me. I was in survival mode. At that point is when I knew I got to play dead or I'm going to be dead. Next thing I know, Fred come in yelling at that bear. And the bear charged Fred, and he emptied the can of that pepper spray right in that bear's mouth. And she took off around him, gasping for air, coughing, and away she ran with her cubs in tow. Next thing I know, Fred's saying, Mark, are you okay? The bear's gone.
With severe facial injuries, a punctured skull, and lacerations to the arm and throat, Mark was anything but okay. Luckily, Mark's hunting partner was a doctor.
And says, oh, don't worry about it. I'll put you back together when we get to the hospital. So it was really nice having a doctor on the scene and staying so calm about the whole thing.
So the moments that happened that day will stick with you forever, but you have some things that are a little bit more of a daily, constant reminder that you kept with you.
Well, you know, of course, this little square on my face here where she got my salivary gland. And, you know, what I brought up today, I wanted to show you a shirt that my wife, Becky, made for me and I had on that day. And you can see here where she went in for my throat, where she grabbed a lot of shirt here. You know, a little shredded here and there, but this is just a little souvenir for the day. Yeah, you hear about giving you the shirt off my back? Well, here you go, man.
That's pretty awesome. That's amazing. The shirt that he wore the day he was attacked right here in this exact spot. Pretty cool.
One of Mark's favorite sayings is, when life hands you lemons, you make lemonade. Or in his case, why not produce a potent new bear pepper spray, engineered to bring a charging grizzly to a screeching halt. Out here in bear country, the nearest town is usually a long ways off, and bear-proof gear is essential. But I've also got to bear-proof myself. My personal protection of choice is simple, mobile, and effective bear pepper spray. And most importantly, it's never out of reach.
This is not a spot that the bears are used to people being, so I'm gonna go a little slower. I'm gonna pay attention. I'm actually gonna take this off, because if something happens, it's gonna happen pretty quick.
And I've had to take the safety off a few times.
Now, this is a little bit too close for comfort. Hey, there. Like I thought. Right in the bottom. Big dark grizzly bear eating an elk calf.
It's no wonder I have a lot of respect for Mark Matheny, who, after his attack, developed a bear pepper spray that's been proven many times against grizzlies.
Bear spray really works on the mucous membranes and it works on their nose mainly. So you take away a bear's keen sense of smell, now you've got one worried wild animal. They rely upon that, that's their eyes.
I've read that grizzlies have an incredible sense of smell. Now imagine a grizzly with a sense of smell 7 times stronger than a bloodhound, hitting a wall of pepper. The effect is an instant change of behavior. And this, over time, may be great news for humans and bears.
That long-term effect, if you spray a bear with bear spray, you've done your fellow humans a service, because next time that bear sees a human, the last thing it's gonna think about doing is going near it again, just like if we see a skunk.
But traditionally in bear country, firearms like pistols and rifles have been the status quo.
I was traditionally a big firearms person, but when it comes to bears coming at you like this bear did, they're very hard to stop. And with a firearm, you only get one crack, and you gotta place a bullet, the size of a small marble and try to put it in a vital spot.
The hunters I know won't just take your word for it. Despite all the evidence, they still trust their Colt revolver over a can of bear spray. So it's time we put our money where our mouth is. With a little guns versus spray demonstration we cooked up in my backyard. My wife, actress Missy Pyle, is our test shooter. With no experience using guns or bear spray, she represents a typical hiker in the Yellowstone ecosystem.
So I have a little challenge. We want to find out what works better in defending against a grizzly bear charge, bear pepper spray or a firearm. And first, I'm going to give you this paintball gun. I'm going to take you up here. I'm going to blindfold you with my hands. And then you're going to have 3 moving targets coming at you. Only one is a grizzly bear that's going to be charging you. You need to shoot that grizzly bear between the eyes. It's the only way you can stop a charging grizzly bear before it gets to the yellow line. All right? So I'm going to put my hands over your eyes. I'm going to count to 3. They're going to start charging you when I start counting. And at 3, I'm taking my hands off.
Okay.
Okay? You ready?
A grizzly can charge at up to 40 feet per second. So a grizzly at this distance would be on you in 3 seconds.
Decoys ready. 1, 2, 3. I think it would have got you.
By the time Missy grazed this grizzly, it was already 1 step over the line.
And now it's time for the pepper spray.
1, 2, 3.
Bullseye.
Wow, yeah. It's easier.
You got him.
You get
got him.
Fact is, recent research has shown bear spray to be twice as effective as firearms. Beyond statistics, there's another not-so-hidden benefit to using bear spray.
One thing nice about bear spray is it doesn't harm the bear. And hey, this bear is just protecting her cubs, right? So you kill that bear, how good is that gonna make you feel when them little babies aren't gonna make it because they're first year's cubs? So in a sense, you killed 4 bears.
I'm glad I don't have to carry a firearm because, the last thing I want to do is kill a bear.
Even being a hunter, we're conservationists. We don't want to have to kill something that is just doing what comes natural for them, and that's protecting their cubs, their food.
One of the biggest issues in bear country is the influx of people living right at the edge of wilderness. They may want to live in nature, but on occasion, they are in for a rude awakening. So it seemed appropriate, with my wife Missy joining me in our new homestead on the frontier, for Brutus and I to welcome her with a bit of a trial run.
Got it?
Need to have the groceries?
Oh, that's all right. I'll put them away. Go on your little nature hike, and I'll take care of this. Oh, just take the bird feeder out, and please light the grill.
Seriously?
Yeah. Then I'll make our first meal in our new house.
Hey, listen to me. I'm really serious about this. We're not in California anymore.
What? Really?
Really. Here in Montana, there are plenty of wild animals out there that would love to scare you all the way back to Hollywood, so you need to be really careful.
Wilder than you?
Wilder than me. So you promise to be careful?
Look, I can take care of myself, okay? This is Montana. It's not nearly as dangerous as Los Angeles.
No, just go.
Okay.
Go squirrel whisperer, or whatever it is they pay you for. And I'll see you when you get back.
Now, I really don't think Missy's taking this whole living in bear country thing seriously. So I'm gonna recruit the help of a good friend and teach her a lesson. You just wait to see what I have in store.
Hey!
All right, Brutus, here's the plan. Missy's really not taking this whole living in bear country thing seriously. Why don't you go teach her a lesson?
Okay, roger that, Casey. I'll take over from here. Well, what do we have here? Backyard bird feeder? Strike one.
I know, it's gorgeous. He's so hilarious. He's so worried about me, like something bad's gonna happen.
Medium rare?
I think it's more dangerous here than it is in Los Angeles.
And no one watching the grill? Then it's all mine.
I know. Oh, it's very cute, though. Uh-huh.
This is turning into a real cakewalk. Time to raid the goodie bag. And the door's open? Oh, then I'll let myself in. Oh, what is that smell? Could it be salmon? Phew, time to wash it down. That's it for the groceries. And this needs to go. And these. Hey, Missy, dinner's ready. Oh, am I exhausted. Time to take a load off. You know, this place is kind of a dump. Definitely needs a remodel. Okay, Casey. My work is done here. She's all yours.
What happened?
Do you have any idea who might have made that?
Looks like a grizzly bear. More specifically, Brutus. Remember I told you, now that you're Montana, you have to play by a whole nother set of rules? Well, I had Brutus play a little trick on you, but
Fun.
the good news is that I'm gonna buy you a new kitchen.
I think you're gonna have to start by buying me dinner.
Okay, anywhere you want. Let's go.
Anywhere.
Brutus!
What a bad boy.
Hey, y'all. Come on in. Water is fine.
With a family full of talented actors, pulling off a scene like this is a snap. We're hoping this video will go on to educate the new residents of Bear Country. Otherwise, we're sending Brutus in to renovate your kitchen. People find themselves in Bear Country for many reasons. Some for the view, some for the hunt, some for the solitude, and others for the company.
Oh, Sarah, it's good to be back with you on a horse in the woods. It's been a long time.
The last time Sarah Muller and Sarah Harvey were together on this trail in Yellowstone was 18 years ago, crossing Slough Creek on horseback. They had no idea what lay waiting for them on the other side.
So tell me about the trip itinerary. So you left from this trailhead. You're headed in for a while.
Heading in for 3 or 4 days. Yeah, it was a wonderful weekend. You know, I'd met this cute little mountain man that I was falling in love with. And that morning, Pete asked if I wanted to ride out, and I said, I'll just hike out.
And you said something that morning before you left.
The day I left, Pete packed my backpack out, and I just had a stuffed sack and a water bottle. And I said, oh, I need my key to the car in case I get out before you do. And he goes, well, don't you want a piece of leather or something to tie that on in case you lose it? And I said, well, I won't lose it unless I get mauled by a bear.
With those ominous words ringing in our ears, we get back in the saddle. And as we ride higher, out of the timber, and into the high country, the rewards are never sweeter. But something on the wind is bittersweet. The memories of the attack returning.
I was coming up the trail from this direction here, and I see her just right out there. My adrenaline started going, my heart started pumping, but I was still at that point thinking I was gonna get away. Her cubs either smelled me, heard me, but they let out this incredible shrieking, like, warning cry to her. And she just started coming right at me. I had no spray with me. What are you gonna try? Anything. So I'm trying to put that stuffed sack in her mouth. I do remember the sound of my skull crushing. She tore into this leg, but what really hurt is when she broke 7 ribs and collapsed my lung, and so at that point it was hard for me to breathe. She picked me up by this arm, did one of those shake numbers, tossed me in the air, and then that was it. I was down on the ground. It was like all of a sudden, quiet.
Both Sarah's eyes were blind from the trauma. She was losing blood from head, leg, and arm injuries. And her one good lung was gasping for air. With time running out, her only hope was Sarah and Pete coming down the trail behind her.
So Sarah, you're coming up the trail, and you see her laying in the trail.
And then I saw her face, and it was pretty bloody.
Of course you want your loved one to stay with you, but then he said, I'm the better rider, I can go faster. Sarah knows first aid. And I was like, okay.
Pete rode off for help, pushing his horse over 4 miles down steep, rocky terrain at breakneck speed.
And we had 2 pack horses tied up in the trees, so I just kept watching them because I knew they would let me know if a bear was in the area.
You're alone here and with no security, essentially.
Yeah. Helicopter came in really quickly, though. I think it was like within an hour.
I've never been so happy to hear a sound of a helicopter.
Ditto.
Oh my God, yeah.
And then Sarah uttered the words that made her famous throughout all of bear country.
So many years I had seen so many bears killed. I remember as they're walking me up to the helicopter, but I said, but don't mess with her. Please, just don't mess with her.
The scrapbook Sarah brought with her into the backcountry practically overflows with mementos from the attack.
These are just newspaper articles of the whole, the lucky to be alive, and that kind of said it all.
But most impressive was the human reaction, responding to the news of her request that no harm be visited upon the bear.
This was an interesting letter from a trucker that read about it, and it says here, the end of this article stated that you requested officials not to take any action against the Grizzly. I'm writing to tell you how much I admire your wisdom and compassion, especially after an ordeal like that. I thank God every day that I'm still here, that I survived what I did.
Ultimately, Sarah's true message is the same as Jim Cole's and Mark Matheny's. They've all been close enough to see the real grizzly bear, struggling in its own fight to survive.
and they can see themselves in the picture and admit their own mistakes.
It was my fault. I was in her, area and not making noise. She would have heard me, taken her cubs, and gone away. They don't want to do what she did to me. They're beautiful animals. I totally respect them and even have that much more respect for them now.
Did I let my guard down? Yes. Was it my fault, not the bear's? Absolutely. I take full responsibility. Bear was just adhering to her natural instincts, and I totally respect that. I have no animosity toward her at all.
So I really enjoy that aspect of living in Montana is, it is still wild because we got the grizzlies here. When something scares somebody, just to kill it, is that the answer? No, I think not. It's to learn about how we can live together. We can coexist. We don't have to just knock out something that scares us.
Grizzly bears can appear larger than life. Maybe that's why we fear them with such intensity. But to see the bear for what it is, the keeper of the last true wilderness and a reminder of our place in the big picture, is its own reward. In the land of the midnight sun, something strange is going on.
I've come all the way up here to northern Alaska to the Arctic.
For 150,000 years, polar bears and grizzly bears have ruled separate empires. Now the two largest land carnivores on the planet are on a collision course.
And nobody's backing down.
In the ultimate turf war, I take a shot in the dark.
That is about as big as a polar bear gets.
If a grizzly can go polar,
A charging grizzly on ice. Go swimming like the polar bears do, buddy.
these titans will face off, and only one will rule the Arctic.
Grizzly versus polar bear, and I've got front row seats. This is ridiculous.
Well, we're playing like Ring Around the Ambulance right now, because look right here. I'm surrounded by polar bears.
They're really starting to rip and tear on the carcass. It looks like they're in a spaghetti buffet.
Yeah, around here you have to watch 360 degrees. You never know when the next batch are coming, huh?
Well, and there's a number of little small islands and barrier spits that totally surround us. Could be coming in from anywhere. And these are your bad guys right here.
I just never thought I'd ever be this close to a polar bear, let alone two family groups of polar bears. It's just incredible. Really kind of a dream come true. So we're out filming around the whale carcass, and 2-year-olds are like mischievous just by nature. So one of them decided to come over and check out the film crew, and so getting in quickly is not really an option. Go for quicker, quicker.
Didn't move either.
Sorry, dude. I'm out of here. I about shut the polar bear's nose in the door, so it was pretty close. I'll tell you, if I wouldn't have got in the ambulance sooner, I would have gotten an ambulance somehow. You know what I mean? Right now, we're stuck in the ambulance. It's getting dark, and there's polar bears all around us. So we're just gonna hang tight, see if brown bear shows up. So we're rock solid in here, right, Art?
Yeah.
It is cold, windy, and dark out here, but right now is the time that a polar bear and a grizzly bear could come together. So I'm just gonna stick it out here and hope to see something very rare. Unbelievable. One thing is for sure, a grizzly in polar bear country is like me, outnumbered and outsized by the Goliaths of the north. Grizzlies are out of their element here, facing Arctic conditions that could stop them in their tracks. Or so we think. Right down the road from my home in Montana is the perfect place to shed some light on the matter. To do a little controlled experiment. Well, at least semi-controlled. What do you think, bud? Slippery, huh? You're doing pretty good. Better than I thought you'd do. You're sliding around a lot. Now, if you're a polar bear, you could walk on the ice a lot better. Ice is a curiosity for a grizzly, but a polar bear's life depends on it. The sea ice forms a critical platform to hunt, mate, and travel. For Brutus, this may as well be the moon. Let's play some salmon puck hockey here. You gotta get your agility down on the ice. Get it! Get it! Come on! Come on, bud! Go! Good boy! Polar bears have thousands of tiny bumps called papillae on their paws. They work like sandpaper to help them grip the ice. In short bursts, they can attain speeds up to 35 miles per hour. That's 10 miles per hour faster than Usain Bolt, the fastest human alive. It's not fair because grizzly bears don't have sandpaper like a polar bear. A grizzly's feet lack fur, making the foot pads a major source of heat loss. The polar bear has the clear advantage here. But overall, Brutus manages better than I expect. There you go. Good job. Now you're really getting the hang of it. A charging grizzly on ice. See what you got. See if you got some moves like a polar bear does on the ice. Oh, you're slow. Oh, you got it. Good job. Where are you going? That's what they eat the puck. Me and you, one-on-one. You gonna hibernate? Until recently, the answer was always yes. But with the Arctic rapidly warming, grizzlies aren't forced into hibernation as early. Instead, they're ending up in some unfamiliar places, like here, Kaktovik, Alaska. Population 300. People, that is. Around this time of year, a different type of resident arrives. This year, I'm joining them.
I've come all the way up here to northern Alaska to the Arctic, the land of the polar bear. Right off the bat, some good sign right here. Tracks, fresh tracks. The ice out in the Arctic Ocean is broken up. They've come to land. But the other reason is the people of Kaktovik harvest 3 whales a year. And after they butcher the whales, they bring them over here to the end of this peninsula and leave the bones there. And the polar bears come and scavenge on the leftovers. I know they're out here somewhere. I see 2 polar bears moving across this island out here. Now these 2 are moving actually towards the peninsula. And the locals have told me that at night, just as the sun's going down, they'll come off this barrier island and go over and feed on the whale bones. And I'm definitely gonna go over there and be there when they come.
I wait for them here, at what's affectionately known as the bone pile. It's a feast for the senses.
For centuries, the people of this area have been harvesting whales, and the bears have been taking advantage of it. Right here is an old whale vertebrae, leftover of a past harvest. But this year's harvest is just right over there. Polar bears from all over the Beaufort Sea come to this whale site. And this year, scientists have strung up a single strand of barbed wire around it. And what they're doing is trying to catch hair samples, identify each individual through its DNA, and try to get a grasp of who is coming to the site.
Carla, research assistant for the local Inupiat tribe, collects the hair samples. If grizzly bears, often called brown bears in this part of the world,
spend their time here, she would know. Hey, Carla.
Hello.
To Carla, it's not a polar bear. It's Nanook.
So Nanook is the native word?
Nanook.
Nanook?
Yep, Nanook.
And what about the brown bear?
Akhlak.
Akhlak?
Akhlak.
Akhlak.
Yeah.
I like those better.
Yeah. So, what they're looking for is these cuticles at the end. And then so that looks like a really good one to get. And sometimes they're really hard to get out of there.
So in the past, the usual way that the DNA was collected was flying out in helicopters, darting polar bears from the air, taking a biopsy. But what happens then is the polar bears get stressed from all that action. What's great about the barbed wire is that they're coming in to eat, stepping over it, no big deal, and they're still getting the same results, capturing the DNA. So this is definitely a better way. But what's really cool is that they're finding out there's some other visitors coming to the carcass, brown bears.
Probably my whole childhood life, I never saw a brown bear on the island until like maybe 5-6 years ago.
Wow.
Everyone was really shocked to see it on the island.
This change is more than just about a few unusual new visitors. It reflects a huge turning point. Ever since the polar bear separated from its grizzly bear ancestors 150,000 years ago, their historical ranges have been separated by a major barrier: polar ice. But with ice melting to record lows in the 21st century, the polar bear is losing its grip, and the lines are suddenly blurring.
I just spotted what I came here for. Right out there in the water, swimming this way, 3 polar bears. A couple of them are playing with each other. Probably a sow and 2 big cubs. But as they get closer, they're picking their head up, looking around, seeing who is at the bone pile. Right now, it's just me. This is awesome. 3 polar bears right there, coming this way. They can probably smell me, definitely can smell the whale. And to be this close to polar bears is absolutely amazing. Coming in, but they're definitely not real comfortable. Now, the way these bears are acting, there's a good chance that they haven't been here before. They're also very, very clean. What that means is there's a good chance they've been out on the ice and are just coming in.
This year alone, the Arctic has lost an area of ice the size of Texas and California combined. Polar bears must swim hundreds of miles of open water from the distant ice edge to this shore. It's no wonder they arrive hungry.
So they really settled in, really starting to rip and tear on the carcass, and they're getting what they came for. This big bear's moving in, little family group on the carcass, but it's coming this way. This is a different bear. It's a big, big bear. He's coming in with a swagger, and he is going to probably eat whatever he wants here and move the little guys off. But one thing that's apparent is that the bears are coming in when it's almost dark, and they probably more of them that come in when it's dark. So from here on out, I'm going to plan accordingly.
It's far too dangerous to be out on foot here after dark, with an animal honed to stalk, ambush, and kill its prey with near-perfect efficiency. Fortunately, there's another way to have a close encounter with polar bears. Here at Minnesota's Como Zoo, a state-of-the-art polar bear breeding facility, I'm introduced to Buzz and Neil to get hands-on in a way that isn't possible in the wild. So what do we have in here?
Well, we're going to give them some enrichment to use some of the foraging skills that the bears have, also just some natural behaviors.
So we're just going to stuff these full of fish?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay.
This is capelin and herring, and they get several pounds of it a day. So we're gonna stuff those into the Coke bottles and let them use that for their foraging.
All right, let's put these out and see what happens. Time for me to meet these bears.
Absolutely, let's go.
All right. On their way outside, the bears pass through a caged area known as the knuckle. Here, the zookeepers can safely examine them. First up is Neil. It's just so cool to be this close to them. When you're this close to them, they're just so big.
You don't really get an appreciation for their size until you're right next to them.
Paw. Good. Hold it. Good.
That
Hold.
is one
Hold
giant
there.
Good.
Their paws are massive. And
Yeah.
those claws, they're completely different than a grizzly bear's.
Yeah, they have to have the really big paws to be able to spread out on the ice and be able to, stand on the thin ice. And the claws are just really good for traction in the snow and ice.
Neil, rise.
Whoa! He is so tall. I mean, Brutus is only about this tall. He dwarfs his cousin Brutus. A typical polar bear stands around 10 feet tall, whereas the average grizzly bear stands under 7 feet tall. With their exam out of the way, Neil and Buzz are ready to take this party outside. And they put on a show that no grizzly bear could match. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, you could just see right there when he went in the water, his body is completely designed for the water. So that behavior, I mean, that's very typical of a polar bear, that pouncing behavior.
Yep, the ice-breaking behaviors.
Even though they're very closely related to brown bears, they're just completely different. With skills like these, a polar bear can take on any challenger. But the showdown is on hold. Right now, the only action here is the bird life. Polar bears arrive every evening. Where they hide during the day, and whether grizzlies hide there too, is a question worth investigating. Well, today, I want to go to the place where the polar bears are hanging out when they're not at the bone pile. But it is foggy, and it's out there where they're hanging out. So hop on a boat with a native guide, navigate through the fog, and by the time I see them, we're gonna have to be really, really close. So it could be a pretty exciting day. Hey, Robert.
Okay, ready to go see bears?
Yeah, we're gonna be close when we see them out of field with this fog.
Well, I think so. It's not too good of visibility, so they'll probably be within 100 yards, so we can't see them. That'll be too far to see.
So there are a lot of bears in the area?
I heard about 49 bears in the area.
Wow.
So.
It's a lot of polar bears.
Yeah, gotta look behind once in a while.
All right, well, let's go out there.
Okay.
Out of the fog, a barrier island appears, home of the sleeping giants. There's one right there.
Sometimes they're just laying there. You don't see them until they move.
Yeah, that one's just lounging. Probably got a belly full of whale. Well, the fog has lifted out these barrier islands, and as I drift along here, I can see polar bears everywhere, out here taking their daytime naps. I'd like to take a closer look to see if a grizzly bear is among them, but it's a risky move. Even though it looks completely flat, just on the other side of that sand is a bear, and I can't see him. So for me to get out and explore and walk around here, I really gotta be on my toes. This brief window in the fog is my only chance, so I seize the moment. Got my protection here.
Yeah, you better still be careful. They could be behind the bank. I'll stick with the boat, and I got my bear protection.
Are they different?
Oh, well, this is a little more final.
The best protection I have out here is my own awareness. This over here is a female with one of her cubs. She's just kind of kicked back right on the shores of the Arctic Ocean and nursing one of their cubs right now. It's really beautiful. She's just holding the
Little guy, just like a baby. Kind of closing her eyes, holding her baby tight, making the baby feel secure. It's as cute as it gets.
Then, I see 2 young bears heading my direction. Luckily, they're less interested in me than in sparring with one another. But I'm not about to let my guard down.
When you're out here on the Barrier Islands, you're kind of fair game. These bears make a living by hunting and killing things.
And here we go. This is not the welcoming committee. Just the opposite. And it's headed my way.
Well, I'm not the only one walking on the shore here.
This bear could close the gap between us in seconds.
Right down there, headed my direction, is a big polar bear. So it's time to get back to the boat. Let's go.
Without the engine, we're a pair of sitting ducks.
So I'm back on the safety of the boat. A bear was coming towards us. And, you know, there's not much out here. He was curious. Well, you're an animal, cruising around the beach, and that's what polar bears eat. So, a little safer out here on the boat, but they like to swim. Just out here in the water. Got a sow and 2 cubs. I'm used to seeing bears on the land. To be out here in a boat and watch bears playing out in the water, it's very unique. Polar bears love the water, and it just makes me think of Brutus. He was out there like that, he would be so freaked out.
We see no sign of grizzlies out here, but these polar bears give me an idea. So I signed Brutus up for a swimming lesson here on a frozen alpine lake in Montana. Open water is in short supply. No matter, we're making our own.
Now it's time to see how Brutus stacks up to his wild Arctic cousins. Come on, buddy, your very own Arctic Ocean. Right there. You gonna get in, take a little dip? It's like the polar bears do. What do you think? Pretty cold. Go swimming like the polar bears do, buddy. Good boy. Your very own Arctic Ocean, buddy. Get in there, bud. Good. There you go. Pretty cold in there, especially if you don't have blubber like a polar bear.
The blubber of a polar bear is up to 5 inches thick. It's like a custom wetsuit built for warmth and buoyancy. Grizzly bears lack the thicker, better insulating blubber. They work harder to stay afloat. Polar bears also have partially webbed forepaws that work like oars for swimming. The best the grizzly can manage is a crude dog paddle.
I know you like the hot tub. This is kind of the opposite of that. You getting out already, buddy? Polar bears stay in that stuff for up to 200 miles.
A polar bear's long, oily guard hairs shed water nearly instantly. Once out of the water, they simply roll themselves dry. Try as he might, Brutus's fur retains water. It'll freeze right on his back. In the coldest, wettest conditions, the grizzly is simply out of its league, much like another mammal I know.
Now we know polar bears are amazing in this frigid water, and Brutus did okay. But now we're gonna show you how inefficient humans are. All right. You ready for this? Yep. Humans are not very efficient. They lose heat very rapidly. You look at his body now, there's a lot of heat there. If he stays in there for too long, hypothermia will set in. Whew. Don't get hypothermia.
I won't. Maybe I will. Cold.
He's crazy.
Do my little Brutus check.
Here he goes. Woo! How's that feel?
It's close.
Very close.
Now, right now, he's in a very dangerous situation because he doesn't have blubber and hair to retain that heat. Heat's escaping at a rapid rate. If he loses 3 degrees body heat, he'll actually start to go into hypothermia. He'll make some bad decisions, even worse than the one he just made. And then if he's out there for too long, his core will start to shut down, all of his organs will start to shut down, and as you can see right now, his body's starting to shake. All the heat is going to his core, and he's shaking to try to make his body get warmer. Now, a polar bear out there can swim miles in this water, but a body like this can't take it. You ready to get out of there?
I'm out.
All right.
To the car.
Finally, the action heats up at the bone pile. As usual, Carla is right in the middle of it. Finding anything cool?
I found your grizzly bear here.
Ah. Yeah. A big sample.
Yeah.
This is it. The first hard evidence. But I need more than hair samples to get a clear picture of the situation. So we've got grizzlies and polar bears sharing this carcass. Something I've always wanted to capture on film is the 2 of them together. So this looks like about as good of a place as any.
Oh, I think so.
This is exactly what I came here for. Brown bear and polar bear entangled as one. That is awesome. Grizzlies would only ever arrive under the cover of darkness. So I roll out a new strategy to get them on film. So what I'm gonna do is set up my infrared night and day cameras. So when the grizzlies come here, I'll be able to capture them on this camera right here. With 4 cameras up, I think I have just about every angle covered.
So what I want to do is come back here at night, and it's going to be difficult to see, but the locals told me about a guy that can help me, so I'm going to go meet him right now.
In the Arctic, solutions seem to turn up where you least expect them. But this, well, this might be more than I bargained for. Howdy. You must be Art.
Yes.
I've been down there at the bone pile. Been trying to get brown bears and polar bears, but they tell me you've got a way to really light that place up so I can really watch and film.
We can light up the whole thing. We've got a bank of military batteries in back and inverters and 120 amp alternator, and
it looks like the ultimate production vehicle.
Yeah, it is. It's like a bear can for your equipment and, you know, crew.
Let's head down the bone pile and wait for the bears.
Okay.
All right.
Cool. Yep.
The new rig is already paying off, with 2 family groups of polar bears headed for the bone pile at exactly the same time. That's a whole jam of bears right there. To see 6 bears together like that, in any place, any kind of bear, that's just amazing. So it's 2 family groups. Do you think that the family groups are related in any way?
I'd say that it's likely that the 2 sows are related. Could have been siblings, and each one has gone off and has their own family, but they come back and they recognize each other, and the bonds are still there. You know, they remember. Because this is a tight population of bears.
I watched these 2 2-year-olds earlier, and they are pretty rowdy. They're full of energy and curiosity. This guy right here, I'm naming this one Casey. He's the one who's caused me problems all day long. Dude, there's like a bunch of whale over here, and you're messing my camera up. There you go. See, at least he listens.
He's lost interest. Now he's got to go find another one.
The real reason this bear needs to get back to eating whale is simple. Polar bears all over the Beaufort Sea are stranded on land, far from their seal hunting grounds, until the sea ice reforms. Lately, the sea ice takes longer and longer to return. If grizzlies now compete with polar bears for the same food sources, you have to wonder if there's enough to go around. And who gets first dibs? Now, where's that brown bear? I'm beginning to think these bears don't want me to find out.
Yep, there he is.
Especially when I keep ending up back where I started. The guardians of the bone pile are a persistent bunch. What are you guys doing? You guys gotta get out of here. You guys gotta get out of here. You're being bad. Bad bears. A little bit of action going on out there. I'm gonna go out and see what's going on. Thanks to Art's lights, the bone pile comes alive, right at the peak of polar bear activity. It's dark. And I know there's polar bears all around, so I gotta keep an eye out. Fighting going on over there. 2 young spring cubs. Look at the size of that boar right there. That is about as big as a polar bear gets right there. What I'm hoping to see is a polar bear interacting with a grizzly bear, and this is a place that it can happen. Okay, here we go. Careful, heads up. Watch our back here. I know this is back and forth here at this. Oh, there's Mama. She's bigger. I think she touches this door, it might cave in.
Yeah, they're in front now. I know you.
Oh.
Who's the air horn? The last time you did this, we couldn't start.
Even the ambulance can't withstand the full brunt of a polar bear's aggression. We have no choice but to call it a night. I can't help but wonder what I miss. Hopefully, my remote cameras will be my eyes. Well, looks like the polar bears had a good time with my cameras last night. So I'm gonna pop the cards out, see what I got. Well, it'd be a miracle if I got anything. Let's see, got something. Polar bear, polar bear, polar bear, polar bear, lots of polar bears. This is good news, the camera's working, it's capturing things. A lot more bears here, definitely. Wait a minute. I can't tell what that is. Definitely a bear, but looks like there's a hump right there. Check that out. Grizzly. Walking right where another polar bear was walking. The easiest way to identify a polar bear versus a grizzly bear is, of course, color. But at night, you don't have that option. This grizzly bear has a pronounced hump between its shoulders, whereas the polar bear has none. This comparison only scratches the surface. We have to get a little closer to see if a grizzly can really beat a polar bear at its own game. I'm out here on this mountain lake to give Brutus the ultimate sea ice challenge. Now, polar bears can smell a seal from 20 miles away. But for this challenge, I'm gonna bury some salmon and see if he can use his nose to be the ultimate polar bear. I bury the salmon in the ice because I'm curious if Brutus will be able to smell down through it, the way a polar bear would sniff out a seal. Several hours later, the scent should be almost undetectable. Can you smell that out there, buddy? I know bears are supposed to be hibernating this time of year, but polar bears love this stuff. Brutus's digging style doesn't resemble any polar bears I've ever seen. Are you trying to turn all white just like a polar bear? Huh? Is that what you're trying to do? It's cold out here. What'd you find? Good job, buddy. You found the salmon. But now you just want to play in it. Brutus must have smelled the salmon all along. More out here. Can you find it? Good job.
I think you're ready to hunt seals. You're all camouflaged just like a polar bear, and you're laying down just like they do when they hunt. Let's go do it. Come on.
Brutus could clearly smell a seal, but could he capture one? On the Beaufort sea ice, polar bears rely on seals for 98% of their annual diet.
Now it's time for Brutus's next polar bear challenge. Now, a polar bear in the Arctic will actually sniff out seal layers, and this represents the minimum amount of ice they have to punch through in seconds. And what a polar bear does is he pounces down on the ice, breaks through, and tries to grab the seal. So today, I'm setting up a little martial arts action for Brutus. And we're gonna see if he could be Brutus Lee and punch through this ice. Come on, Rudy. Up here. Now, get this. This is the challenge. You have to put your feet up on here, not your butt. This isn't a coffee table, and you gotta break it. Yes, good. Now you gotta get your other paws up on it, not your butt. You gotta put your front paws, not your butt. It's not how a polar bear does it, Brutus. Come here.
Brutus is having a tough time getting the idea.
Brutus. Brutus, you can't dig the seal out. You have to pounce through the ice. That's way too easy for a grizzly bear. You gotta do it the hard way like a polar bear. Through this ice. No digging.
I'll have to demonstrate.
Pouncing, right here. Polar bears get their paws up like this, and they pounce through the ice because there's seals underneath of it. So you gotta get up here, like this, and push on it. Like this. You wanna try it? Brutus Lee. Come on, you gotta be Brutus. Good, good. Break it, get it.
He'll need to do more than scratch it if he's going to measure up to a polar bear.
Good, now pounce it. Come on, Birdie. Break it, good. Good boy. Good boy, good boy. Boy, that's some tough ice if it can stand your big butt.
Chances are the seal would have swum away by now. But Brutus deserves one more shot.
Good boy. Good boy. Push it. Good. Good. Oh, good job, buddy. Good.
Brutus Lee found the only weak spot. All 900 pounds of him took care of the rest. Tonight is my last chance to film history in the making. To see a grizzly and a polar bear face off at the bone pile. I'm determined to stick it out, no matter how many bad-tempered bears we have to dodge.
Another curious bear. Back in the ambulance we go. The other thing is you gotta watch over there. Uh-oh.
Camera 2 down.
He's coming. Get ready.
The Guardians are out in force. Once again, it's a waiting game. Soon, darkness is upon us. Bears drift in from all directions.
Do you see him again?
Yeah, he just walked right in front of us.
Do you think it's worth trying to light it up?
Yeah, good as time as any.
Oh, man. Like, we have a grizzly bear literally 15 feet in front of the ambulance going around this way.
It's now or never.
Got a small grizzly moving in, kind of looming outside the bone pile. The bone pile is covered with polar bears right now. So it's just picking up the scraps. And there's 2 polar bears kind of running them off the carcass. The bad news is they ran them right into me. See right here, grizzly versus polar bear, and I've got front row seats. This is ridiculous. The grizzly's charging after the polar bears, trying to back them off. Grizzly's posturing up, hoofing, trying to assert itself. Unbelievable.
The moment I've been waiting for. But getting distracted out here could be fatal.
What's up?
And they're back. You guys are mischievous. These 2-year-olds, they're just mischievous. Always up to no good. When I was hanging out, looked around the corner and one was coming, so I had to bail in here really quick. So we're just hanging out. These little guys are up to no good. Move on that door there. Back up into the darkness. I hear them, but I don't see them. The 2-year-olds finally move on. Just in time.
Grizzly just walked up.
Okay. Grizzly's out there. Let's go. There's no guidebook, no diary, no field journal that can tell you about grizzly polar bear interaction, because it's being written right before my eyes. So the grizzly's making its move. It's actually gonna go into the bone pile and join the polar bears right here in front of me. Look at that. A grizzly hanging out with polar bear right there. This is ridiculous, and this is what I came here for. Grizzlies, polar bears interact. Right now, they're not getting along. This is the ultimate standoff right here. Grizzly versus polar bear. And nobody's backing down. Unbelievable. The situation is still in flux. It's about to get even more intense. Okay, things are getting very interesting right now. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 polar bears and 2 grizzly bears on the whale carcass. This is 2 species. They're not supposed to be together. The status quo will never be the same. This big grizzly moved in, sitting on top of the whale carcass, ripping up big chunks. Now there's a big difference going on here. This grizzly's got to eat a lot because it's going to hibernate. These polar bears have to eat a lot because they're headed out into the darkness for the rest of the winter, hunting seals on the pack ice. It looks like the grizzly might be leaving, but he's not leaving empty-handed. He's grabbed a big chunk of muktuk and he's headed off into the darkness. There's a big polar bear in pursuit. After 150,000 years, it comes down to this. Who owns this beach? This island? And who goes home hungry? Now, I know. Come down here on my last day, and look, a female with this year's cubs, the future of the polar bear. Soon the ocean will freeze, and this family will head onto the ice for their first difficult winter. And this right here is an example of what it's going to take to keep these polar bears around. Coexistence. And this has been happening here for thousands of years, right here on the shores of the Arctic Ocean. Now I understand why the word Arctic means place of the bear. But the place defined by this bear may one day harbor none. Well, the families have their fill. Now they're just going to jump back in the ocean and head north. The fate of the polar bear hangs in the balance, especially now that the competition has arrived. But Brutus has proven his species can step up.
Good boy! Good boy!
Pretty cold in there.
Now you're really getting the hang of it.
Testing his footing on slippery ice.
is insulation in frigid water.
There you go.
Push it.
And his strength against the sea ice. He's gone polar. And for these grizzlies, there's no turning back. Because in a world that looks more and more like grizzly country, we now know who has the upper hand.